Hey, Hayden, how are you doing? Nice. How was your week? Weekend, I guess. Chapter four, what, sorry? Oh, good for you. Right on. Very cool. Well, here, let me pull up six. Yeah, nice. Excellent changes here. This is just really fantastic. The only place that I really think there's a need to focus is on sort of the explanation again of the kind of what's going on in the background. But boy, do I ever love what you changed here with Ramona. This is just a radical improvement. I mean, it was great to begin with, but the way you've sort of enhanced Ramona's sort of state of mind and her emotions and sort of the emotional ups and downs of what she's thinking and feeling. Oh man, it's great. Even this whole intro is great. It's not just good; it's well written. So I think you got a really strong in both areas. Ramona couldn't sit still as she looked around at the world around her. Looked around at the world around her. Would probably cut. Just realize that you get two arounds. So looked at the world around her is probably enough. Her mind was a chaotic mess of emotions, etc. And I love all this. But despite the heartbreak and near-death experience, and I put it to center, she also couldn't remember ever feeling as good as she is right now. Also, just as a juxtaposition, you don't have to put that in there. It's only if you want to. This is great. I love all of this. This is so strong. Um, Hells is the only thing I bumped on. I know that some people will get the colloquialism, some people won't. So if you don't need to put it in, I might choose something different. Totally up to you. But your whole first page, just really great. Whoa, slight misspelling there. I love this. Oh shit, Ramona jumped at the sound, clutching her mouth on the ground. A giggle escaped her mouth. Like, that's great. Like, in other words, she's like, oh, like, here's a woman who should be purely traumatized, but she's going through all of these emotions, including this giggle, which I love. This is just great. Like, hmm yeah. I don't know. In that case, it's sort of a redemptive. There's a redemptive aspect to it. Yeah, like he's finding his soul again. He's finding his heart in this relationship. I love that. Yeah. So Neil, I love that. Hmm. No, it's a dead end street. It feels good. It feels right when you have it. It's like a nihilism. Always, I'm reading a lot of Russian novels right now where nihilism is the flavor of the day for that age. And as one person points out in the book, he says, "Yeah, first year university students are unique because they know just enough to think they know everything, but not enough to really know anything." And so, but they, not everybody who's been there, myself included. That doesn't mean it's a carte blanche dismissal of an entire generation, but there's this. Yeah, I think that tends to be more the schools than the teachers. I haven't met a lot of teachers that I would say that of, but I can definitely say that for students, 100%. Love the change here with, oh, I just love the way you have Julius come into the room. Immediately, Ramona was on edge as Julius sat down across from her. So she's like a child, like she's been a child, but she's sort of got this, like, am I in trouble kind of thing that when she's sitting down across from Julius. Yeah. No, it's just great. Hello, I'm Julius Flamel. Punctuation stuff, final polish in this. Hi, I'm Julius Flamel, period, or comma. We met earlier tonight. Um, I'm just going to put that in here so I don't forget. That's an easy little fix. Um, I apologize I wasn't able to or but I had to go after my partner. This is great. Like, this feels like a human being talking to another person. I'm happy to see you still have your appetite. Now, there's two things about this. Usually, and it could be that that was meant to be a separate paragraph, but hello, I'm Julius Famel. We met, da, 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 da. And then Julius said as he sat down across from her, um, What typically they'll do is, "Hi, I'm Julius Flamel, comma," he said as he sat down across from her, and then the rest, rather than three or four sentences, and then Julius said. But what I was going to suggest there is you don't need to say Julius said, because you've got immediately Ramona was on edge as Julius sat across from her. "Hello, I'm Julius Flamel. I know it's Julius Flamel now, so I don't need a said Julius." Um, but what I would suggest anyway is he does all that. "I'm happy to see you still have your appetite." Excellent dialogue, by the way. I love all of this. I would drop a line, new paragraph. Give us Ramona's response to that, even if it's no response, even if she says nothing. Like says okay, and then he continues as then he sits down. Says, "I was wondering if we could talk about what happened tonight." And then you've got this gorgeous, like really, really, good start to a conversation between somebody who's about to sit down and sort of check in with her. Am I under arrest? Just a little glitch there, but this is great. So I might drop down there. Same punctuation over here. Now, here's where I want to start making some recommendations from this point on in the thing, because, and I love that you're making excellent, better attempts at sort of getting into explaining the world. But the dramatic emphasis of this scene, and I think it's important that you do both of these things that you're attempting to do. There's two things that it appears you're attempting to do in this chapter. If I was to look at it from 10,000 feet away, you're trying to show, where is Ramona now? How is she feeling? How is she doing? And also you're trying to have this information that Julius is passing on to her, but it clashes, and it has to. It clashes because he's trying to fill her in on some important details, but there's still some the basic questions Ramona's going to have. If I'm Ramona, here's what I'm probably going to think. So take this. This very official looking guy just sat down across from me. He's a man. She was just recently raped, or almost raped, by a man. So if she's like 100% of women, the idea of a man sitting across, especially with any proximity to her after that, even if she's got these, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So she's going to, fair. Okay, yeah, because it was more of a ritual kind of thing, right? So she, even with her new power, she's still a human being. This is what sometimes, not your story per se, but this is what sometimes movies forget, and they fuck up as a result. The movie Lucy, with Scarlett Johansson, was, whether you liked it or hated it, it was universally the one thing that everybody criticized about that movie. Have you seen it? Have you seen Lucy? Yeah. So the big criticism literally everybody had about that movie was, here's this shy, scared woman at the beginning of the film, excellently played by Scarlett, who's got drugs inside of her, who's going up to the top floor of a building to have it removed and then get $1 million or whatever to bring back down to her terrible boyfriend who can talk her into all of this. She goes up scared. She goes up nervous. It really works. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And then she gets kicked in the gut, of course, which releases all the drugs into her system. And she doesn't just become immediately smart. She stops basically being a human being, which immediately killed it for most people. And what do I mean by that? She stopped having any human emotion whatsoever. These drugs just didn't just simply make her super smart. The fatal flaw of that film is that she stopped being not just scared, she stopped having any feelings. She just sort of walked through the rest of the thing like an utterly unstoppable robot until she decided in the end to become a computer. So I'm like, and the problem was, yeah, the problem is the moment she stopped having any actual human response to anything, the audience completely lost all connection with her, because they forgot that even if this person could figure out how to tap into the full potential of the brain, she's still Lucy. She's still a girl. She's still it's like handing a nuclear bomb to a child. The child doesn't suddenly become an adult because they're given a nuclear bomb. In fact, it's terrifying that you would hand that to a child, because they don't have the emotional development to know what to do with it. So the movie Lucy, complete, in my opinion, a lot of critics' opinions, completely dropped the ball when they decided to lose her humanity. Similarly with Ramona, Ramona just suddenly got a serious upgrade in multiple ways, but she's clearly still Ramona, and that's to your credit. She's still got kind of childish responses to stuff, which she should have, and all of these kinds of things. So I say all of that as preface. A man sits down in front of me. If I'm going to be Ramona for a minute. A man sits down in front of me, clearly looking official. I'm suddenly able to lift beds, no problem, but I'm still Ramona. And so there's a bit of a reaction, and we can see it immediately. Ramona was on edge. Yeah, perfect and well written. Yeah, it's excellent. No, it's perfect. It's the conversation that follows. So if I'm Ramona, this is what's on my mind, and you start it brilliantly. So you got it says, I'm going to suggest where is Matthias rather than what about Matthias. There's a reason for that, but do what you want there. Oh, he attacked my partner and myself as such. Police have been notified that he's armed and dangerous. Her next thing I don't believe would be Matthias. He wasn't human. My next thought would be, oh my God, you mean he's still out there? Like first first response, she'd be like, oh my God. And here's what I'm going to invite you to play with. If you decide to go with that, Julius, yes, he would respond exactly like this, I would think. Yes, but don't worry. Our agents are all over this building to keep you safe, or some version of that. Some version of, yes, he's still out there, but I want you to know our men are here. We're going to take care of you. And then my suggestion would be, Ramona also just discovered 10 seconds ago that she can lift beds. So my suggestion is Ramona's fear turns into a smile. She wasn't so sure it was him that it wasn't so he wasn't so sure that it was her that needed protection. So in other words, she's playing with, like, if I'm her, I'm like, oh my God, he's still out there. Wait a minute, he's still out there. I gotta go go take care of Matthias. But she would have all kinds of emotions, and it probably, smile may not even be the best thing. She would probably go through a quick range of emotions. Like fear would be her natural response because she's still Ramona. An old Ramona, I'm going to call her, would still be terrified at the idea that Matthias is out there. Then angry. Then, oh, wait a minute. I'm super strong now. That might not be a bad thing. Hang on, I'm just going to connect my AirPods because they're being a doink. Hang on. For some reason, my whole sound system was being a doink all of a sudden. Can you hear me okay now? Okay, so just going up here. So again, I want to come back to her. So my first thought is, Matthias, he's still out there. Don't worry, we'll keep you safe. She can have whatever reaction to that you want. I think you've got several options, and my encouragement would be, feel free to explore all the things that it might be. Now, here's where the conversation to me still struggles a little bit, because if I'm her, totally apart from what I just said about Matthias, she's got a, oh, why is this doing this? Hang on, I'm going to see why this is doing this. What the heck? Okay, here's where it's supposed to be. Okay. Now, how on earth do you explain algebra to a 5-year-old? That's the challenge you now have. What you have is you've got to somehow figure out how to explain to a person who has absolutely no idea what's going on about this whole reality that she's now been pulled into. So, for example, Matthias, he wasn't human. He was a vampire.
you know. And then her response to my to me, rather than "Is this a joke?" would be a what? Because here's where it starts. Here's where I'm sort of, if I'm Ramona and somebody starts saying things like, "Oh yeah, that right." Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. That's where I respectfully totally disagree, because here's what I would say is she's had hours to process what exactly. Like the normal human response is she hasn't registered any of those yet. Did I dream that? Was I drugged? Because even if I experienced it, even in your world, if I experienced it, I would be like, and vampire, I don't know that vampire automatically is the first thing anybody thinks. And even if they do, how do they, here's where reality sort of clashes up against all of the stuff she's about to hear. So I'm going to put myself in Ramona's position. He wasn't human. He was, now if she's processed it already, she would say, Matthias, vampire, right? She's not saying that. She's not even saying he's anything. She's just saying he wasn't human. So she's clearly not processed this yet in terms of automatically, like, I don't see her going, him going vampire. I don't see her saying, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's obvious in the line you do have. Is this a joke? So her response is clearly not of one that anybody who's even close to embracing all of this. Never mind the vampire. Now, no doubt what she just saw was horrific, but if I'd just been through that, I would assume, because we still haven't seen any kind of real trauma with her, which that's the hardest thing for me to believe. Like, we went from this horrible experience to she's able to carry on quite a cogent conversation, just sort of buy into the whole sort of thing. So I'm going to take a step back. I'm Ramona. Here's what I think this is. I'm going to propose a possible conversation here. He's a vampire. A what? Ramona. Um, this may come as a bit of a shock. So this is where I think it's useful to think of how would you explain this actually in any real world resembling ours. Everything he's about to say. This may come as a bit of a shock, and it's going to sound crazy, but well, let me start from the beginning. The world is not everything it appears to be. I don't see him launching right into, yeah, there's gods and elves and vampires. I see him as like, let me start from the beginning. This is not what you think it is, right? And I can see her saying, yeah, I'm starting to get that impression. There are other worlds out there, other dimensions. Keep in mind, you're not just having to bring Ramona up to speed, you're having to bring the reader up to speed. And what you don't want to do is take a 5-year-old and put them right in grade 2, which is what the conversation right now feels like it's doing. It's saying, oh, here, what's 3 plus 3? And the kid's like saying, what does plus mean? Like, that's how basic it is. So that, and my thought would be, whatever his explanation is, I want to see a lot more of Ramona, like, assume, because keep in mind, if I'm Ramona and any explanation he gives me outside of reality, eventually I might embrace it. And I'm going to suggest that what you said a second ago is the perfect place to land. He doesn't need to do anything with blue light. He doesn't need to give fancy explanations. All he needs to do is say, okay, well, Ramona, if the explanation I'm giving you doesn't make sense to you, how do you explain your superpowers and the monsters and the guy who turned into a vampire? That's sure. But I mean, whatever it is, like, you, whether or not you buy what I'm saying, you've already experienced something you can't deny. Then it makes sense for him to refer to that. Um, Point being is that if he starts explaining all of these things to her, I kept waiting for her to go, okay, can you get another agent here and get rid of Mr. Crazy? Because he's trying, and I saw none of that. She just like totally buys in immediately. Like, for example, her first response, um, is this a joke? Nope. I'm an agent for the Bureau of Paranormal Activity, and your boyfriend is a vampire and attempted to illegally turn you into a vampire before attacking 2 BPA agents and evading arrest. What I just heard was wah, 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 because I don't give a shit about any of that. I need this guy to explain what just happened in the graveyard. Don't give me all this shit about stuff I don't understand. Start where I am and then take me where you want me to be. So I don't her response. I love this. who attempted to illegally, and I'm not making fun of it, I think it's great. This is awesome. And your boyfriend is a vampire who attempted to illegally turn you into a vampire. And her response is, illegally? They're illegal vampires? Why? Why not just kill them all? And I'm like, stop. Because it's assuming that she's already buying into so much stuff. She, in that one line, she's buying into vampires, the difference between legal and illegal vampires, and asking a question, why not just kill them all? The actual response, I think, of 10 out of 10 people, if somebody said something like what he just said to her was, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Can I get somebody in here who speaks English? Because I don't know what any of that means, and it doesn't help me, and I don't care. I need to understand what just happened to me and my boyfriend. So it's sort of a slow down here. And so I see her response to him going, yeah, your boyfriend's a vampire. Sorry? Yeah, he's a vampire. Wait a minute, stop. You mean you believe vampires exist? Like, I know he's going to turn it around in her in a minute and say, well, then how do you explain all this? But her first response would be the rational response in my mind, which is like, you're a grown man and you believe in vampires? Okay, I'm just gonna go talk to somebody normal. I'll be right back. That's what makes a scene like this juicy. A scene like this is exciting because the things that the irrational, totally preposterous sounding things that somebody's trying to sell you. It's like somebody come in and say, hey, I got a bridge I can sell you. I got some prime real estate on Mars. You interested? Like she would go, okay, fuck off. Like, can I talk to a normal person? So all the my suggestion would be to cut this stuff. Even though I know that obviously you worked hard on that. But because her question, first of all, his response, his response, why stop there? Why not incarcerate all black people? That joke or that sort of reference, slight tongue-in-cheek thing, it's kind of lost because I don't know what I'm stuck on her, like, whoa, wait a minute, she's buying into this immediately. And I've highlighted the stuff I've highlighted in green is all the stuff where you're throwing a really big concept at Ramona and the audience without enough context to make sense of any of it. So, and I'm not sort of following the logic anyway. The majority of the paranormal, or paras for short, are law-abiding citizens. Only a small percentage of whom ever commit a crime. Why are we talking about committing crimes? Like, attempting to arrest all of them for the potential that they might one day commit a crime is as illegal as it is immoral. I'm lost. On top of that, many provide specialized services for local government. What? Hold on the phone. I don't know what that means, but there are paranormals here. Can you go back to how that happened? And if Julius were to say, "Oh, come on, girl, you just got to kind of go with it." No, I don't have to do anything. I'm a reader reading Hayden's book. I'm completely lost. I need to understand anything about this world to provide a context for what he's telling me here. Her response, what about werewolves or ghosts? I don't know. What else magic? That gets close to a response to me that she would give, like, oh, yeah, I'm sure. And werewolves and Frankenstein, too. Where are they? I'm sure they're around here somewhere. You're nuts, man. He's like, that's perfect. Lots of that would be my recommendation. It hit me that what we still need to do, and I've said this a few times, I know, but it really would benefit me to say, okay, for you to really know, because we obviously several weeks ago I said at some point we need this context. I'm saying it again now. I really need sort of the big picture of what is this world, and then we can start saying, okay, we're going to serve them this dish in chapter 6 and this dish, and because by the end of the book or the season, they'll know all this stuff. But I can't dump grade 2 stuff on a kindergarten kid, which is how it feels. So I would love to, maybe go through and, like, for example, here, Julius is asking Ramona, let me just make this a little bigger. Think about what Julius is asking. And Julius comes off as just dumb in this chapter because he just seems to have zero emotional intelligence, zero understanding of what a woman in her position would need to hear. So he's just doing like a big info dump on her. What does she really need right now if he has sort of the awareness of the situation? Julius is asking Ramona to buy into at least 3 things at once. That the supernatural even exists, that's already a jump. It's like me when I was a pastor. Imagine if as a pastor I'd met somebody who'd never heard of anything religious and said, hey, do you mind opening your Bible to Colossians 4:5? I want to read this to you in Greek. They would go, what? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to help you get to know God better. Okay, well, how about we start with talking about whether or not God exists? Oh, okay. Yeah, because this Bible, you're pulling out the Bible and telling me to read it like I should give a shit what it says. You got to convince me that there's even a good reason to believe in a God, like kindergarten. So to me, I think that would be sort of how I would stage it. Let this chapter, this whole scene, simply focus on him trying to, she's going to believe that the supernatural exists. Then she has to believe that it exists on this planet. Then she needs to understand the dichotomy, sort of the landscape of what's all here in terms of creatures and stuff like that. And then, most importantly, she's got to figure out what any of that has to do with her, because she's just been yanked from her normal life 2 days ago or less. She didn't know any of this stuff even existed, and now suddenly she's thrown into it. And you can play with that. You can have Julius like say, start to explain it to her. You can do exactly what you're doing and have her go, whoa, 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 stop, and be me, like the asshole I'm being to you right now, where I'm like, whoa, 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 dude, slow down, slow down, slow down. You can get away with having him say all these things if you simply have her say, dude, whoa, 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 can you back this ship up for a second? Are you trying to tell me you actually believe there are vampires on this planet? Do you believe in like stop gods and elves? Like, I'm not even close to even considering that possibility. I need to be convinced that the supernatural even exists and that it exists in abundance on this planet. And what's this about? Some of them offer specialized services to the government. You mean no, or decide that, because these are all important things to know eventually, but I would put this on your laundry list and I would say this stuff, all of this stuff I'm sharing in this chapter needs to be revealed eventually. But just think of in the sort of the cognitive development of a person embracing all this stuff for the first time. If I can, like, what's first base? All I need to do with Ramona in this chapter is get her to first base. What's first base? Simply believing that the supernatural exists. Like, the BPA means nothing to me. None of these things mean anything to me if I don't fundamentally believe the supernatural even exists. So in other words, they get into a philosophical argument about whoa, 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 whoa. You're telling me, and she's just resisting, resisting, resisting. And then finally, I can see her saying, like, look, this is all crazy talk to me. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in vampires. I don't believe in any of this stuff. And then Julius can pull out, okay, well, then you explain to me what happened in the graveyard. Now, that doesn't answer the question, but what has that done? Like, because Ramona, I can see responding to that by going, oh, yeah, fuck, right. Yeah, there were monsters in the graveyard, and now I'm Wonder Woman. Okay. Okay, I'm not saying I believe in all that stuff, but you got a good point. Like, it's kind of like that. Lean on her experience, lean into the very story you're telling. If this is Ramona's story, any attempt, because I like what you're doing. This is the thing I love about what you're doing here. This absolutely sounds like a person who's been doing this for years and years and years and is completely tuned out from how this must all sound to the average person. It's just like bleh! And she's like, what? And that's what I keep waiting for her to say. She's like, dude, nope. Then you don't need him holding up his hand and doing a blue ball of flame. That's clear. I like that, but I don't think you need. In fact, it gets in the way, because him just simply going hocus pocus. What do you think? Blue flame. She's not going to go like, oh, okay, good point. I believe in the supernatural now. Nope. She's going to say, look, dude, this is all horseshit. He said, then how do you explain what happened? And she can be like, I don't know. Okay, I'm willing to entertain the possibility that maybe there's supernatural shit in the world, but I'm a long way from believing in vampires and whatever else she wants to get. Let her be an asshole, because she would be, and so will your reader. And then I would save the stuff, because this stuff should all be on a list. The gods, demons, aliens, elves. Part of the challenge there is a little bit different. That works. Yeah. Like, Yeah, or you can lean on what you already have, which is stuff like, all those things you see in movies that like, because he's pulling on like five mythologies at once. He's pulling on the world of the universal monsters with vampires and stuff. He's pulling on theology with gods and demons. He's pulling on sci-fi with aliens. He's pulling on high fantasy with elves, and it's sort of like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. Like if somebody said this to me, oh yeah, we live in a world where there's gods and demons and aliens and elves, and I'm like, did you just go to like the fantasy section of Netflix and just randomly pull monsters out of there and just say, yeah, they're all here? And I'm supposed to go, oh, okay. It's like six mythologies all going boom. And so it's sort of like, yeah. Yeah, those kinds of things are once upon a time. You can, when you have a show that's expressly almost not making fun, but sort of taking the piss out of itself by consciously pulling all of those things in and making a point of that, that works. And you can do that too. You can get away with that too. I just wouldn't do it here. I would put that all together, but then you have to have somebody mention it. Like if you're going to do all that, which by the way, both Supernatural and Once Upon a Time did, X-Files too, at some point in all of those things, it was sort of like, it's like every monster from every show in this thing, because that just sounds made up. It doesn't sound like an actual world. It just sounds like you just grabbed what was available. I think you could make a list of all of these things and then say, okay, in order, what's the most useful way to reveal this information? The most, in my mind, the best way to reveal it is always in the logical flow of events. Like you just did with Matthias. You didn't just say, hey, there are vampires. You showed a vampire attacking a woman surrounded by monsters. And so now you can point to that and say, see that? But you didn't have all of these things sort of at once. So I think that would be my big note. I'm being a bit hard on you today, but not hard on you, hard on the demands of a story. This is tough. This is tough to know how to how to show what your world is. But I think it starts with not trying to put everything into one chapter, but backing up and saying, okay, what is this world? What does the audience need to know? And what's the best way through the chapters to reveal it? By the way, you've done a mint job so far of already starting this. Your prologue, that whole thing in the beginning, still my favorite chapter, because what you did there was you had terror, you had minimal dialogue, you had high drama. I didn't know what was going on, but that was okay, because it was sort of like, this is terrifying in a Stranger Things kind of way, and suddenly these creatures have just sort of busted loose and they've killed the early warning system, or thought they did, that would have notified other people. Luckily he got that message out in time. Wicked, like that, boom, that gave us what we needed. Graveyard scene, same thing. Wicked, awesome, perfectly laid out what it is. This scene doesn't need to explain everything to Ramona. This scene simply needs to show Julius trying to help her come to terms with the fact that there is a whole other reality, call it interdimensional, call it other world, call it whatever you want. There's a whole other dimension to life on Earth that she has up until now been completely unaware of. Sorry that you had to be introduced to it this way. Would have loved to have sat you down in a class and had 10 sessions to give you Paranormal on Earth 101, but we don't have that time, because you just got bitten by a vampire, or and everything that has that's come out of that. You've just had this incredibly traumatic experience as a human, totally apart from what did it. You were attacked viciously. You're to be forgiven for having a totally normal universal human response to that. This woman needs and through this all, why the hell should she trust anything coming out of Julius's mouth? Because he sat down across from her and said, hi, I'm from the BPA, whatever the fuck that is, right? He sits down. To me, the big thing in this, or the human thing in this chapter, is to show a connection being formed between them, which means probably stuff like this. He bit me. I love this, that we're getting back to it. That why are you telling me all this? That's probably going to get either pushed down or pushed to later, or just removed, in my opinion, because that's just not the question I buy that she's most interested in now. And if you write it, the challenge is, if like it or not, if as a man you showed a woman being brutally attacked, nearly killed, and go through the most traumatic experience ever, and then you have a guy come in and just mansplain to her that if she, tells anybody, they're going to deny anything, which they wouldn't need to. Anything if she tried to tell anybody about this, that she was attacked by a vampire, they wouldn't have to deny anything because she'd be in a padded room. They would assume that she was crazy if she ever tried to say anything about it. And which is the note that I had. Why, for example, when she says, I love the way, by the way, I love the way you flip this. You aren't going to you aren't going to wipe my mind, mind wiping me. You're not going to mind wipe me or something, right? I love that you gave that line to her. Yeah, I would totally go for a line like, "You're not going to mind wipe me, are you?" Right? And Julius goes, "No, we're not the Men in Black." Like, why not actually say that for food for thought? Mm. Oh, interesting. It all fair. Okay, that's not a bad point. Now, I still think that it's a bit premature, maybe, for her to be saying that at this point, but because of the other questions she's thinking, but that works for me. Um, then why tell me this? And his answer sounds at this stage, if Julius is learning anything from the conversation, if it goes the way I'm making the recommendation of, where she's like, "Hey, slow down, big brain. I need you to start from bottom line stuff like that." I don't think he would give a response, but the original protocol for these situations is to deny everything, even to the victims. Unfortunately, if we found this cause additional anguish for the victim, not etc. I'm going to suggest you go for something simpler. He says, "Why are you telling me any of this?" The answer seems to be because you deserve to know. And you'll need to know. You just got pulled into a world you didn't even know existed 2 days ago. This is why you need to know. You know what? I'm sorry. I'll slow down. You're right. I'm giving you way too much information all at once. I should start from the beginning. But the reality is, like it or not, you just got yanked into this reality, and I'm just trying to do you a favor, lady. I'm just trying to bring you up to speed. So yeah, let's start from the beginning. Um, mhm, mhm. Oh, I think she would go. I think she would go. No, I love your reasoning. I think it's brilliant. It doesn't sound like the answer that she needs, or that Julius, if he's got any awareness. Yeah, it doesn't, it just sounds, it sounds technical, it sounds clever, and it sounds like the essence of what you're wanting to say. Yeah. Yeah. Why are you telling me all this mumbo jumbo and explaining all this? Because you deserve to know, and you need to know, and you need to know quickly, lady, because like it or not, a train is coming, and you better be prepared to get on it, or at least get out of its way. Um, Julius frowned as he continued. That being said, if you attempt to disclose the existence of the paranormal, the BPA will not only have to deny it, but we will also have to discredit anything you say and ruin your credibility. Or the more obvious thing, then why are you telling me this stuff? And actually, if he says, if you attempt, that being said, if you attempt to disclose, um, I would suggest that if you even want to say any of that stuff, go with Ramon. He says, "Well, what's to stop me from just walking out of this room and just telling everybody, telling everybody what I experienced?" Which she still wouldn't say, because she's still trying to be convinced on what actually happened and what it all means. But to me, he says, "Yeah, no, totally. Go tell all your friends that that you saw a vampire that bit you, and whatever. Like, we won't have to deny anything. You're just going to be crazy to everybody." I have a feeling you may not need most of that in any event. Yeah, and just put as best as you can. My suggestion would be just put yourself in her position. I know you're the impression I get is you're doing what most writers, myself included, struggle with, which is, there's a certain amount of information you have to get out. And sometimes what that does is it gets in the way of creating a scene that feel like actual people having a conversation that would likely occur after what she just experienced. For example, he gives sort of a half explanation that isn't particularly useful to her, of the BPA and elves and all this other stuff. Most of that probably goes over her head, or even worse, it makes her think he's just certifiably crazy or scary. And so at that point, if she's not satisfied with his answers, which I can't believe she would be at this point in the story, and then this I struggle with too. Ramona, can we swing back to Matthias? I understand this is difficult, but I need your help catching him before he does anything else. Ramona nodded her assent. Here's how I would react. If somebody said, "Can we swing back to Matthias?" No, absolutely not, Julius. And fuck you, by the way. Your explanation has left me more confused than before. And now you're threatening me? Go fuck yourself. That's exactly what I would say. Wait a minute. You gave me a half-baked answer that's not an answer. Now you're saying that if I tell anybody, you're going to deny it and make my life hard? And then you want me to swing around and talk about Matthias? No. So in other words, it's a good conversation, except that Ramona isn't responding the way I think a woman, anybody would, but again, especially her. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so then, so this whole conversation about Matthias is like, to me, if I'm her, I'm going to say, look, I'm not talking to you about anything until A, you convince me you're not crazy. B, you can convince me the supernatural exists. By the way, good luck with that. And then three, like somehow help me understand how what I just experienced has to do with anything you're saying. So no, respectfully, I'm not swinging around and talking about anything you want to talk about until you answer some of my questions. Capiche? That's I would, yeah, and I would go to like, okay, yeah, he's not going to go into basics and talk about all these questions about Matthias. But I like where your head's at. I don't mean in any way to suggest that this isn't information that he needs. It's just about speed. It's just about how this might actually occur. Julius got up to leave, but Ramona stopped. Sorry, this gap in between. Am I supposed to go right down to where is your partner? Oh, okay, cool. So again, now I'm sounding like a broken record a bit, but Julius got up to leave, but Ramona stopped him. She wanted to ask one more question. No, she doesn't. She's got 100 questions. But okay. And the one question probably wouldn't be, where is your partner? But here's what I love about your ending. Love your ending here. I think it's tighter if it's shorter, but what I do is, once you've figured out what that conversation should look like, and so the two, and I know you're just so eager to get this up online, but the tough thing is it's going to go up before it's ready. I'm just being frank. If you do that, and I also don't think it's going to take weeks. I think you could do it in a week. What I would do is I would say, okay, big picture. Paul wants to know, definitely. The reader will want to know. Fucking Ramona definitely wants to know what the fuck is going on here, and then break that into bite-sized pieces and decide over time, what does she need and what do we need to know when. And so once you figure, so that would be the first thing I would say, definitely 100% top priority, have to do that. Then I would say, okay, how does that, having done that exercise, that should help take care of the next thing, which is figuring out what the conversation would actually look like between these two. Put yourself in Ramona's shoes as much as you can. Pretend you don't know anything about the rest of your story yet. Pretend you know nothing. And that's hard because you're the god of your story world. You know everything. That's going to be as best as you can. But Ramona is literally the opposite of you, and so is your reader. So my suggestion would be, how do I not force feed this person information? And more importantly, any attempts Julius made, here's the great part, it doesn't actually matter what Julius tells her. It matters in the sense that there's information the reader needs to know, and I guess so does she. It doesn't matter what he tells her. She's not listening. She can't hear anything he's saying about the technical because she just went through hell and needs to believe that this guy actually gives a shit about her, which, by the way, you've done an excellent job at the beginning part of the chapter, better than ever, laying out the way he sits down in front of her, the way he says, he's so gentle. He's so not Julius as I've seen him. You've given him such a gorgeous humanity and depth in the beginning of this chapter. Keep with that. Keep showing him having the emotional intelligence to realize, oh yeah, she's not listening to a word I'm saying. She needs to know, again, the big three. She needs to be convinced fundamentally that the supernatural exists, that it's here, that it's in this world, that it's been here a long time, this is the relationship between the humans who know about it. And as I'm not supposed to tell you this shit, but I kind of have to, right? And then she needs to know how any of that connects back to her experience. Once you figure out what that conversation looks like, which is your second thing, then this ending. I love this ending. At first, I said you could leave this for a future chapter. Yeah, because there's still a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to take all of that back, and I'm going to say, yeah, maybe that's true. You know, you got that option. But I love that at the end of it, once, because where this scene, in my humble opinion, needs to end is Ramona actually has to believe two things: that Julius can be trusted, and that Julius isn't crazy. More specifically, there's some truth to what Julius is saying. So, in other words, a relationship has to be built between these two. And right now, their conversation is super kind of hostile and full of threats, and it's confusion and stuff. It's almost there. It's better than it was. It starts out building trust, but by the end, I can see her giving him a bunch of shit through all of this, and him saying, because he's doing what he probably doesn't normally do. How many times does Julius sit down with a civilian and explain the world and the BPA? Probably rarely or never. He's having to do it here, so he's not good at it. Julius has no idea, and that's what strength. Play to your advantage. Play to your strengths here. Have him say a bunch of stupid shit that is totally inappropriate, but so long as she comments on it and reacts to it, it works. And then, to me, at the end, I can see him going like, "Oh fuck, I got to figure out how to talk with this girl, because we need her and she needs us." And anyway, however that conversation ends, then she drops this. She goes, "By the way, can I ask you?" And it sounds like it has nothing to do with the previous conversation. And it's beautiful because she doesn't realize, she doesn't mean any harm. She turns the emotional table on him by asking about Watkins. Sort of like say, conversation done, the storm is over. Ramona's like, "I don't believe 90% of what you said, but obviously something's going on because of what just happened to be monsters in the graveyard." So, to be continued, Julius. I need, a smoke break, and I'll come back and we can keep talking about this. I need a break. By the way, where's your partner? Total shift. I love that. I love the idea that after all of that, she says, "Can I just ask, where's your partner, or how's your partner?" Whatever else like that. And then, and his response, my suggestion would be cut all of that dialogue. "Hey, where's your partner?" Julius paused and looked up at her, a confused expression on his face, as if he wanted to say something, but thought better of it. "I'll contact you if I need anything else." Boom! That's it. Because what it shows is like Mr. Talky, Mr. Chatty, who had nothing but words 3 seconds ago, gets asked an honest, emotional question, and he doesn't answer it. And he just says, I'll come get you if I need anything else. And now Ramona's like, "Ooh, did I just find something out about you? You have a little trouble with the emotional vulnerability. You expect me to open up and listen to like BPA, God, elves, vampires, but I ask you about your partner, and you say you'll get back to me if you have any more questions." I know this guy. And I love that. I love the idea that after this big, long conversation that goes totally sideways for Julius, he walks in here thinking, this will be easy. I'll talk to this girl, get the answers. What's the conversation before he walked in? Probably something like this. "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk to that girl now. We need to find out about this Matthias guy, because he's the guy we want. We need to find out about Matthias." And of course, I think he does walk into this a little blind. He does walk into this thinking, I need information on Matthias, so I'm going to go in there and ask her questions about this, get the answers, I'll be right back. But he goes in there and he gets a run for his money, because she stops him dead in his tracks and says, "Hey, Mr. BPA, can you close it for a second so I can ask you what the fuck?" And then, and that totally takes Julius by surprise, is probably what I would play like, oh, this is the interview, the interrogation, the thing that didn't go all the way I wanted to. And by the end, like he's down, like he's against the ropes. She's not giving him anything. He's like, ooh. And what he's realizing is he needs to stop being Julius the new and tap into Julius the old. I have to believe at some point in this man's past, he knew how to talk to people. He doesn't in this chapter, that's clear. But I have to believe that he used to know how to approach a trauma victim with some degree of compassion. In fact, I would now go back, if you choose to do that, I would go back to the beginning of this chapter, and now I would make him less kind to her when he walks in, or not less kind, but less understanding. We got a few questions for you here, ma'am. Do you mind if we just ask you? And she's like, okay, I got a few questions for you. Okay, yeah, fine. We'll get to those. But can I start? And I would maybe even have him start asking about Matthias right off the top. And she's like, whoa, 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 and just make this juicy resistance on her part. And then we come to this thing at the end, where's your partner? That hit me in the heart, man. When she asked that question, I'm like, oh, I was not expecting that. I thought we were going to go into more BPA stuff or something, but he's just asking, where's your partner? And all the dialogue you have there is fine. You know, it's definitely what probably in a normal conversation would be had. I just don't buy that Julius is this emotionally available. Plus, I kind of don't want to hear it too. I'm more interested in her asking him a question. He's been asking questions the whole time. I just expected her to give answers. She asks one question. Oh no, go into all of that, of course. Like, like I think you like the conversation you have works. But she's got to respond to it. Like he comes in, hi, I'm Julius Famel. I'm happy to see you're still alive. Am I under arrest? No, of course not. You haven't done anything wrong. Where is Matthias? Oh yeah, about Matthias. Actually, I've got some questions about him. That's where I would probably introduce it. But Matthias says, no, okay, fine, fine. Yeah, I've got some questions about Matthias. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you could do like, no, you're not under arrest, Maroni. You've done nothing wrong. You were the victim in a terrible attack. Speaking of which, I want to talk to you about that. And then she could say, where is Matthias? He attacked. Keep it exactly the way you have it. He attacked my partner and myself. And as such, the police have been notified that he's armed and dangerous. Whoa, whoa, wait a minute. You mean he's still out there? Yeah, but don't worry, we got this under control. Can I ask you now about Matthias? Can I ask you some questions? Wait a minute. Wait, stop. He wasn't human. So all you got to do is just insert a couple of. Julius is trying to kickstart a conversation about Matthias, but she's like, "Stop. Can we talk about what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you more questions." No, stop. What was that? What happened? Oh man, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to put this. It's going to sound weird, but well, as it turns out, your boyfriend is how can I say this? He's a vampire, and she's like, "What?" Sure, totally, sure. So something along that line. Yeah, you don't. I don't have any need suggestion that you do it that way. But he says, okay, stop. The point is that he's trying to keep the conversation moving so he can ask questions and get the f out of there. But she keeps halting him and say, whoa, 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 stop. What? That thing you just said? What? Says, oh yeah, your boyfriend. I don't know how to tell you this, but your boyfriend's a vampire. Anyway, I'm moving. Sorry, pardon? He's a what? Well, he's a vampire. You serious? You think my wait a minute. Holy shit, you're serious. You you believe in vampires are real? Like that's how primitive the conversation to me would be. And a thing like this, he goes, look, I know it's a lot to handle. Didn't want to go through this. I just had some questions because he doesn't want to go like what I love is that he has no desire to do this explanation. He's no good at it. He's clearly no good at it. He doesn't know how to explain this whole thing to somebody who's fresh off the boat. He doesn't have a clue. That's why it's like it's just a word salad of demons and elves and bullshit, right? And so she's like, sure, sure. Yeah, and you can play into either one, but I would say don't be afraid to go into it because I also would believe he's no good at it. When does he ever have to explain any of this to civilians? Of course he doesn't. The whole organization is devoted to keeping this from civilians. So there's a really great opportunity for you to capitalize on both. He doesn't care, but she's making him care. Look, dude, I'm not answering any questions till you care enough to give me some answers. So you can go with he doesn't care, but that won't work on Ramona at all. She says, I don't give a sweet fuck if you don't care. I'm not saying you say any of that, but I'm saying, like, look, just so it's clear, yeah, I'm not answering any of these questions until you give me some answers. Okay, here's an answer. Your boyfriend's a vampire. That's an answer? That sounds crazy. Pardon? He's a what? Look, I don't have time to explain. Like, have him say that. Look, I don't have time to explain all this to you right now. But let's just okay. There's vampires. There's a lot of other things that I can't go into right now. But the world's got like a lot of supernatural beings here, and I'm part of an organization that has to kind of keep them in check. That would be sufficient, by the way. If that's all he said, I would be fine with it. There's a bunch of vampire, a bunch of supernatural beings running around. It's our job to keep them. It's called the Bureau of Paranormal Activity. At which point she would think he was crazier than she thought he was 5 seconds ago. She'd like hold the phone. What? And like and just sort of along that line. Forget about all the other stuff, crimes and illegal versus illegal, and all of that is wonderful. Too much probably for this chapter. And he says now can we get back to answering the questions about Matthias? Because he keeps trying to bring it back to that. Like I need to be, I got 5 minutes, lady. I just need, and then I'm fucking off. But she won't let him. She's the one who's making it hard for him. Because of course she is, and she deserves to, given what she's been through. He says, look, I understand you came in here because you got questions you got to answer, because I'm assuming there's somebody on the other side of the door that's waiting for you to give them a report or something like that. But can I just stop you right where you are and say, dude, I was just assaulted in a graveyard by monsters. How was your day? Right? Like, I need you to help me make sense of that. At which point he would say, well, that's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, your boyfriend's a vampire. What? You expect me to believe that there's supernatural beings walking around the earth and it's your job to keep them at bay, because I'm sure there's more than that you're not telling me. But you expect me just to believe that? And then he could say, well, okay, then you explain to me how a bunch of monsters attacked you in a graveyard and one of them bit you. And I'm assuming, if I look at my clock correctly, based on my experience, I'm assuming right about now you're starting to see things a little differently. Julius has to at least suspect this. I'm assuming you're kind of seeing things a little different, right? You're feeling things a little differently, a little stronger than you were 20 minutes ago. He doesn't have to know any about that, but if he's had any experience with this kind of thing before, I would lean into the idea, and he perfectly nails how she's feeling. Let me guess. This is what you're feeling. This is what you're thinking. This is what you're seeing. This is what you're able to do. Am I close, Ramona? Am I somewhere in the ballpark? And she, at that point, she's like, that's a hard argument to resist. I still think you're crazy because you believe in vampires. But are you crazy? I don't know now, because you just dropped a lot of shit that's true just then. So she's like, at the end, I see the scene ending where she resists. He never does get to answer any questions about ask any questions about Matthias, would be my suggestion, because she says, you know what, I need time to think, then I'll answer your questions. End it with a feeling of Ramona being like, if all you did in this chapter was leave on the note that Ramona is like, holy shit, is the supernatural real? Mission accomplished. Perfect. Move on to the next chapter. Then she flips it. Beautiful hook. Love that you did it. Hey, can I just ask you one question before you leave? Because he's walking out the door. He's 0 for 1. He's walking out of the room with nothing. He walked in there to get answers. He's going to go out and talk to whoever's on the other side of the door and said, yeah, I got nothing. She is a piece of work. What happened? Well, I went in there to ask about Matthias, and she wouldn't shut up. She was asking me about, like, she didn't believe a word I was saying and whatever else like that. And the friend's like, yeah, of course you did, you idiot. You went in and talked to a trauma victim and wanted her to give you a bunch of answers. Did you take a second to see how she was doing? And like, Julius, Jesus, you're 100 years old. Like, have you totally lost it? And I don't give a fuck. Well, you got to give a fuck, dude. Because when you're talking to people in her position, and guess what? You're going to have a lot more of these conversations, because if it's true that the supernaturals just busted into our world on steroids and civilians all over the place are going to potentially start getting attacked, you're going to have to get real fucking good at this. You can't, I don't have time for you to do a song and dance with people like you just did with Ramona in the future. And he's like, wah, wah, wah. But she asks him about, so he walks out there with his head, his balls in his hand because he hasn't gotten anything from her. And then she throws the question about your partner. And he's like, oh, this is my recommendation. That's a ton, I know. I'm throwing a bunch of shit at you. Oh, sorry, your volume. What's happened to the volume? Sorry, Hayden. I don't know what happened to my volume, but it's gone. Hang on. Sorry. The hell just happened? Sorry, what's happening? Sorry if you've been talking and I've been ignoring you. What the hell's happening here? 1 second. I've just lost my volume. Okay, it's working. I'm still not hearing it. What? I've lost it. Hang on, what's going on? Okay, I can hear you now. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, you betcha. Oh, even better. Okay. You might. Do you know what I would do then? I would drop that question about where is Matthias to the very nearly the very end. Like if that's the case, like if they're asking if she answered if she's like the whole time under the impression that Matthias is oatmeal, and they took care of him, and then you say closer to the end. Um, anyway, yeah, like hopefully you can answer I'll give you 5 minutes. Just give me a few minutes to decompress. Okay, but I really need to get those answers for you because my guys are looking for him right now. Whoa. What? He's still out there? And you could even, I mean, you could, oh, now I'm torn because suddenly that's a better ending than the one you have with the partner. Because I don't want you to get rid of that question with Watkins. But if you had to choose, not that I think you have to, I would definitely lean into the wait a minute, he's still out there. That's a better way to end, actually. If that's the way you want this chapter to end, that's what I would do for sure. Fair. Well, and you can keep it the way it is too, and you can just simply, she asks the question about maybe he leaves something in the room, like a picture. He says, "Wait a minute, he's still out there," and maybe it's a file. Maybe he intentionally leaves something. I would, if I was him, like I just got goose eggs from this interview. But if he leaves like a picture of Matthias or the crime scene, whatever else like that, and she even asked the question about the partner, and he doesn't respond, leaves the room, and she sits there and just goes like this, and then she looks down and she sees the picture and she picks it up. Like you could and gets then that's when she realized she knew what she needed to do, or whatever. What is going to happen next? Is she going to go out after, like, is it going to be like a change? Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I'd be curious to see then if you wanted to end with kind of her chasing after him and all that kind of stuff. Be curious to see how you resolve that. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, no, chapter 6 is a really important one for sort of establishing the relationship. I mean, it's not a small task. You're trying to build the relationship between the two of them. You're trying to resolve what she went through in the graveyard. And if he's not smart enough to recognize what she needs, that should just simply be brought to the attention. Because I like the idea that he just walks in there, whether he doesn't care or he's emotionally dim, to things like this, or both, which to me makes sense. The fact is, he goes in there and has no idea how to effectively run this interview, at least not with her. Like, because he's forgotten the most important thing about his line of work. That at the end of the day, we work with human beings every day. What are you protecting the world? Like, what is it you're protecting? Period. You're protecting people. You're trying to preserve the human experience on Earth from these these creatures and stuff like that. So, the idea that he's typical military kind of thing like that. He goes in there thinking, okay, like at the end of the day, dude, you need some sensitivity training, or at least enough to know you can't just walk into a room like this, start asking a bunch of questions and assume that the woman is just going to go, yes, whatever you say, sir, here's the answers, which is, I know, not what you have anyway. You're already halfway there. I'm in most cases just riffing on stuff you've already written, which is great. The idea that she's not quite on board with his line of questioning, but just I would take it further. But I'll send you these notes. Um, yeah, and good luck with that. Thanks for letting me be honest. It's because I think you've got such a great story, not just generally, but in this chapter. Does it work to meet the same time next week? Yeah, let's go back. Let me just see here. I'm happy to keep it with 5, not 8:30, unless we have to. I'm going to keep it on the record as 5:30 if that works for you. All right, sweet, my friend. Okay, well, good luck. Bug me if you need it in the meantime. Bye bye.